We have had a very interesting race in Portugal. The beginning was very interesting. Middle got a bit less interesting, and at the end got a bit decent again, with a couple of the front runners going for fastest laps. But this is Portugal, in my opinion. We're going to go into a bit more detail with the driver ratings, obviously putting them into our little championship as a whole, starting with race winner Lewis Hamilton, who I am going to be giving, based on the fact he won the race, came second, so didn't get pole and dominate the race really. Once he got ahead, he completely left, but at the beginning, getting overtaken by Verstappen, it wasn't the perfect race from Hamilton, and he didn't qualify pole, so it's not a 10 out of 10 race by any means. So I'm going to give him an 8.3. I think that's pretty fair. I say it all the time, I think it's pretty fair. Obviously, I think it's fair. I am the ones literally doing them. Why would I not think it's fair? But an 8.3. If you feel like you want to challenge my opinion, silence yourself, because I have absolutely no care for what your opinion is. I'm kidding, but it's completely true. Do not leave your opinion in the comments. Verstappen, not actually the dream race for him, really. Starting third, finishing second, wasn't really ideal. Wasn't what Red Bull wanted. Fastest lap, so annoying that he didn't get that. He got it, but then he didn't really get it because of track limits. It was like, yes, but actually no. So 7.9 for Verstappen. It wasn't a great weekend, but I mean, he still came second from third. He's still splitting the Mercedes, so fair play, I guess. Valtteri Bottas, that's this man. He's just not good enough, is the problem. He's just not got the speed, which is kind of the problem, and you need a bit of the speed in this sport. It's kind of important, one could say. But yeah, Bottas, fastest lap though, I guess. Pole, but then dropped down to third. He cannot drop down to third. If he wants to win a championship, he cannot be getting pole and then dropping to third in the race. Can't be happening. He didn't really have any major problems or anything, so yeah. Sadly, I think it's going to have to be 7.8. He got pole, but does pole really matter if you're going to drop down to third in the race? Not as much. He's not going to beat Verstappen this year, which is good for me, because I predicted him to come third. Anyway, Perez. How did he go 50 plus laps on those mediums? Honestly, Perez is a literal genius, magician of the tyres, and for that he earns my respect. Only coming fourth, but I mean, it's all he really could have done in that race. It's just completely fair play for me, in my opinion, and I'm going to give him an 8.0. Given the race he had, given the circumstances of him having to not just extend, he had to hyper extend. He had to push the length of those tyres to where they should not be going, and he did it to great effect. Nearly had a fastest lap until obviously Verstappen and Bottas both went for it at the end. Great race from him. 8.0. Lando Norris up next. Another just fabulous race, another top 5, but again, his qualifying hasn't been perfect. Coming 7th, it wasn't bad, but it's the first time he's out-qualified Ricciardo, but we'll get onto that in a bit. Disaster. But people are going to call me biased, but I'm going to give him an 8, because how can you fault it? 7th to 5th, it's another top 5. He's still third in the championship. He's kind of carrying McLaren at the moment. I don't want to really say it, but Ricciardo has just not been there. If you say Ricciardo, say both drivers were Ricciardo, if you double Ricciardo's performances, he would still be up there, but I think Ferrari would be really, really just probably taking a lead, and they'd be more around Alpine's area without Lando Norris. So I'm going to give him an 8.0. If you can call me biased, you can, but he's doing really, really well, and you'll see when he has a bad race, I will not hesitate to criticise him. Moving on to Charles Leclerc, and for him, it's a tough one. Qualifying went not ideal in 8th, to be honest. Could have been better, obviously. That was stupid, but he's probably should be beating Sainz. You expect him to be beating Sainz. He's been beaten by Ocon and Norris. He's got to be aiming for kind of fifth, sixth every weekend, really. You would think best of the rest is got to be his main aim, but he's come sixth with 8 points, putting him just more in the midfield, upper midfield. You know, if they're going to challenge McLaren, Ferrari have to have better days than this, because it wasn't a great day all around. Leclerc, though, decent day. I've kind of made it seem worse than it was. It was actually quite good, to be fair. I'm going to give him a 7.8. Was that too harsh? It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Qualified 8th, and he finished 6th. Okay, now we'll bump it up, 7.9. I'll give him a 7.9. Because realistically, you know, he didn't. If you look at Norris got an 8, well, he didn't do what Norris could do. He finished one ahead, so let's give him a 7.9. Esteban Ocon qualified 6th, finished 7th. Great qualifying, decent race for Alpine, although he dropped a place. It wasn't the perfect race, but it never will be, because they can always do better. These drivers will always criticise themselves, but I think in terms of the car he's got and the fact he's beat his teammate, I'm going to give him another, also 7.9. Same as Leclerc. I know he finished a spot behind him and he qualified ahead of them, but I'm pretty sure that Ferrari is quite a lot quicker. So yeah, I think I've been harsh on Leclerc. No, we'll leave it. I'll go. I'm going to back myself. Fernando Alonso next up. And he had a race that was interesting as well. Not obviously one of those good midfield fights where they a lot of overtaking going on in the midfield. But Alonso qualified in 13th and finished in 8th. So getting the 4 points from not an ideal qualifying is very respectable. So I'll give him, but he didn't beat his teammate in the race. I don't want to give another person 7.9 though. We'll give him an 8.0. Why not? Fernando Alonso gets an 8.0. I know he didn't beat his teammate, but he technically had a better race than him, I suppose. Maybe it's not really justified, maybe. But Daniel Ricciardo, the worst qualifying for him probably in a while, but just because of the car he has, what Lando's doing in the other one, and he didn't make it into Q2. Started 16th, finishing 9th, despite the incredibly poor qualifying. What a race. He went through the field so fast, but I'm going to give him a 7.8, because this is the whole race weekend altogether, and as good as that drive was, the qualifying was just, that is unbelievable from Ricciardo. You do not expect that from him, but fair play on the race side of things for building out back the positions, but still only 9th, 2 points. That's not what McLaren need. Moving on to Pierre Gasly, who again, it's a decent qualifying, well, 9th, but in the race he's come 10th. There's something about AlphaTauri where they're fast, but they're just not getting lucky, it seems. I don't know. Sano didn't have a great race either, just in general terms of luck going their way with strategy or whatever. So we lost a position, but not entirely his fault. He did an okay race. The wind is visible. The wind is visible. No, it is not visible. It is audible. But Gasly, oh my. Flipping hurricanes coming. Yeah, Gasly, I'm going to give him a 7.8. Lost position. It's really not great. The wind, what is going on? All right. Carlos Sainz. Qualified 5th. Such a good qualifying 5th. Qualified 5th and then out of the points, finished 11th. It's like, obviously he's got to get a decent score just because he qualified 5th and beat his teammate. But then in the race, it's just got the strategy all so wrong. So very wrong. The beginning looked alright, and then no. I I'm pretty sure the wind is going. Oh my word! There's a typhoon coming, boys. But yeah, 7.7, 7.6. I'm sorry, it was just not ideal race at all. Decent, obviously in the qualifying, very good. But apart from that, Giovinazzi, Antonio, 12th is decent. Had the contact of Raikkonen on lap 1 or 2 or whatever, but overall it was an okay race. 7.7, nothing really to shout about. Looking at his qualifying, 12th, and you finished 12th. It's just a very mediocre race. 7.7. Sebastian Vettel finally made it into Q3, bottled it in the race. It's not really a long one because I just don't know what else to say, really. I've said it the same thing over and over in so many of the other IMOs or whatever. But 7 point... he beat his teammate. Decent qualifying, 7.8. There you go, Vettel fans. It's an okay score. Lance Stroll didn't beat his teammate, didn't make Q3, had a bit of a shocker altogether. Then I have to give him a 7.6. Yuki Tsunoda had qualifying, that was 14th. I don't expect loads from him, but, you know, whatever. And the race was whatever. 7.7 for Yuki Tsunoda, someone who's very high in the championships at the moment. Then George Russell, who had such a great qualifying, but the Williams was just undrivable in the wind. I think was kind of the comments made. It was the wind and the dirty air. When he was near people, he really struggled. So beat his teammate, an incredible qualifying. I'm going to give him I was going to give him an 8, but I feel like that's quite... No, he can have an 8. He can have an 8. Purely because that qualifying was so good and the car was literally undrivable. So even to be where he was, especially in qualifying, was really, really good. Schumacher, decent race, overtook Latifi at the end because of the lockup, but he was really putting pressure on. For me, that's in the Haas, okay? That's a race worthy of... I'm going to give another 8. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be nice to the lower cars because in the Haas, yeah, I know he came 17th. In the Haas, he's beaten his teammate again. He's beaten his teammate in qualifying. He's doing well in the Haas. And then Latifi, not the weekend for him. 7.6. Locking up, giving away the position at the very end. You know, he's now bottom of the championship, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, not nice for him. And then Nikita Mazepin. It's just going to be a 7.5 because there's nothing good really apart from the fact that he did not crash. So it's a 7.5. I don't know how. I'm not judging him on any prejudice that I have towards him just based on him as a person, but his driving is genuinely just not up to scratch in Formula 1. I think that's pretty clear. The wind, man. But yeah. It's just not good enough, is it? A 7 qualified last, finished last. How can I give him any higher than that? There's no justifiable reason to. And then Kimi Räikkönen, I mean, the only thing I can really judge is qualifying, because he messed up on lap 1 or lap 2, massive mistake. After qualifying only 15th, it's not a great race. He really shouldn't have made that mistake to take him out of the race. So I'm going to give him a 7.6. Overall, this is how the table looks. Hamilton to the top. You got Norris, Verstappen, Perez all up there now. But Mazepin still at the bottom, still in the teens. Everyone else moving up into the 20s. So some in the 24s, some in the 23s, some in the 22s. That is how. Let me try that again. That is my opinion. The wind, man, I'm gonna die. That is my opinion of the Portuguese Grand Prix. I will see you next week for the Spanish Grand Prix. In the meantime, I hope you are nicely good. I hope you are good and nice and have a good week. Until then, I will see you in a bit.